virtually every group of students who enroll in an online class, there will be some with special learning needs that must be accommodated, both in the design of the course and in your approach to teaching it. Meeting those needs starts with knowing your students.
It's important to know your students in detail. It's important to know their likes, their dislikes. It's important to know what their situation is at home. And we need to know what each student's learning challenge is, whether it's minor or severe, and how we can adjust our instruction for those challenges.
For some students, the learning challenge is a physical disability. In such cases, the instructor's obligations are clear.
For example, I might have students that are deaf, so I make sure that I have transcripts for all of those items that are audio. I make sure for those students that require read aloud that there's audio for every piece that's in the course, both the course that's built and the things that I add to the course later, like messages and feedback and that sort of thing.
I once had a student who was deaf in my online classroom, which was fine for most content except for when we taught in synchronous sessions. She needed a sign language interpreter. So during synchronous sessions, she would call a sign language interpreter on Skype, and the interpreter would listen to me, and then she would sign my entire live session to this student to make sure that she could still access the content.
Some students will have issues stemming from their personal situation.
I've had a student that was homeless before, and with that student, I had to provide accommodations based on that particular student's circumstance. I had to communicate with the facilitator more than normal, and also provide those extra accommodations and provisions for that student to be able to complete the coursework.
Sometimes the need is more subtle, to accommodate students who are struggling to keep up.
One of the things I love about online learning is that when a student is struggling with content, it's very clear what's happening. I can see a record of how a student has been doing through a particular point and where that particular breakdown happened.
I monitor students' progress to determine whether they're struggling with the material or whether they're engaged at all by consistently monitoring the gradebook in my learning management system. When I notice that a student who is generally a consistent A student or a consistent B student or so forth has fallen below that range, I will contact that student to find out if there's a personal issue going on or if there's a problem with understanding the information in the content.
And then I can customize instruction for that student. Now that might mean that I cut back on particular exercises and have them focus on an area where they're weak, or it might mean that I enrich completely and develop something new for that particular student.
An example where I have taken assessment data from a particular student and then differentiated my instruction is with a student I can think of that really struggled learning the cell parts. Cell parts have sometimes complicated names like Golgi apparatus and mitochondria that sound really foreign to many people. And so I was able to do some word association and some image association with those cell parts, where the student was then able to retake the particular quiz and be successful.
I engage and accommodate online students that are struggling with their lessons by providing extra one-on-one teacher attention to those students. For example, I've had a student to email me who was struggling with a concept in my AP Physics course. And I went online and did some research to try to find extra videos in which I found effective with helping me to understand the topic.
Discovering a student's individual learning process is a little bit of a process in itself. It's a little bit of a guess and check, try and fail. And sometimes it takes a little bit of trying different things and seeing what works and what doesn't. What does the student respond to? And that's the fun part of the job, actually.
To learn more about INOCAL national standards for quality online teaching, visit us on the web at www.inocal.org.